Hi, welcome to yet another edition of Enchiridion. Today we have Annindya Banerjee with us. He is the National Legal Head for Retail Lending at HDFC Limited. Welcome, Annindya.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over.
Thanks. So, Annindya, we'd like to start the conversation with knowing a little more about your career journey. Can you please share with the audience how your career has been so far?
So, career journey, interesting, because I will be doing 20 years next year in HDFC. So I don't know journey, but yeah, it's been great fun. I can tell you that, especially maybe a generation before this, it would have been the standard norm. But in my generation, maybe it's little out of the ordinary. But the organization has been so dynamic. It has really offered me a variety of roles. So I've kind of been juggling past roles from one to the other. So it's been extremely enriching, and learned a couple of things on the way. So to that extent, yes, that's been the journey, been in HDFC for a while. I started as a litigating lawyer in one law firm in Delhi. So I had a stint across various forums. Actually started off as a matrimonial dispute lawyer in the lower courts. So yes, it's been quite a trajectory, so to say, coming to HDFC in an in-house, and that to in a retail level organization. And from that, doing different roles. So yes, it's been quite a journey.
Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Let's dive into the subject at hand. Annindya, you, apart from a variety of hats that you wear at HDFC, there is one particular initiative that you are very fond about, or at least that I've got to learn about, is your focus on governance, risk and compliance. What is your primary guiding principles to ensuring good governance, risk management and compliance management?
See, you know, it is not about your guiding principle. I think it's actually the environment today. It has suddenly got very dynamic. Look at the number of changes that has hit all of us. Had this question been raised to me 5 years back, I would have said that yes, HDFC, everybody knows about the core values, the DNA of HDFC, extremely compliant, high levels of ethics. That is something which goes with my brand. I mean, I don't need to talk about that. But today, it is no longer something of a choice. It is the very risk of non-compliance which can hit anyone very hard. Your regulators, there is a huge change. The globe has become smaller. I have to comply with some parts of some international laws as well, just because I have some presence, or maybe some of my consumers are located in different jurisdictions. So I have to be extremely mindful that how am I conducting myself, and the risks that it poses. And correspondingly, the other side of it is the very cost of non-compliance. Today, some of these news items that you and I read, the very value, the number value is humongous. So that is another aspect to consider. I don't think it is any longer something which can be driven by an individual in an organization. It cannot be discretionary, I think, which is where a lot of help comes from people like you and Suhas, where you have, you know, possibly thought this through much earlier in time and come out with solutions which help organizations like us in trying to be very focused about how do we go about our compliances, and that it is not something that on which the attention can be skipped. You know, it has to be a focused approach. So I would actually say it's no longer a matter of choice. It is not how do I react to compliance and risk and governance. It is more about how the world has evolved, how we are positioning ourselves, how India as a country is reflecting itself abroad, that, you know, there is a change, and that has resulted in, I think, even our regulators getting very dynamic, very nimble-footed, so to say. Also, when I see some of the matters in the senior courts and the way the Supreme Court is responding, the way they are taking a very granular approach how the letter of law is really calling the shots, I think it is extremely important that this is a core aspect of any organization today.
True that, and Annindya rightly alluded to the fact that the cost of compliance is becoming extremely expensive. So the organizations might as well focus and put it at the center stage. But I'm sure there are a whole bunch of challenges that one faces when you have to apply such programs and roll out such initiatives. What are some of the key challenges that you faced, and what were the innovative solutions that you came up with to address those challenges?
So I was a little lucky, very frankly, if I can share that with you all. You know, our general counsel had kind of envisioned the need to have a very clear compliance structure. So even before any other compliance kind of got formalized, within the legal team, we had a very structured way of showing compliance, and it would have a hierarchy that from where to where should it go and translate. Now, that is something which really got very close to me, and I really thought that this aspect must be taken across the organization. It is something that the organization as a whole unit must do. It is something which should not, I go back to my previous point, that it should not be discretionary, it should not be individual driven. It has to be a process in itself. Of course, there were some, anything new that happens, there is a little bit, so to say, people take time to acclimatize, to kind of internalize things. So once you have that clarity and vision at the top level, it is rather easy for it to come through. What, as processes changes, people need some time to adapt to changes. I think that is the only thing which I can think of. But otherwise, it is more or less played out very smoothly. And I'm glad, I know we did create some small speed breakers here and there. And what people were used to is possibly not happening. But largely, it was a very smooth journey. And I'm glad we have graduated to this, this scenario where at the drop of the hat, we exactly would know what thing is applicable where at what point in time. And that, I think, translates into a huge degree of confidence, especially to the top management, that there is a sense of awareness that what all, and it is such a situation, there is every now and then there's something new coming up. Regulators are coming up with something or the other. It requires us to be vigilant. So as a process, yes, it is kind of evened in, settled in our DNA, so to say.
Very nice, Annindya. Thank you so much. You spoke about a dynamic environment and changes coming high velocity. As a professional, how do you manage to stay updated with all of these changes and dynamism that exists in this space?
So some thanks to friends like you keep us prodding with some material or the other. But I think it really goes to, your commitment levels. Today, if you think of it as something that one needs to do, it sounds like an actionable. But Jaideep, very frankly, I think it's more about your own commitment to how do you approach this. Everybody in every sphere is learning something or the other. I don't think it's a matter of choice. I'm sorry, I'm repeating this again and again. But for someone who is responsible for some activity in his or her own sphere, you have to be aware of where the universe is. There is no alternate. There is no way that you can afford to be not aware. So as I was elaborating on the whole cost of non-compliance, today that's not an excuse. So I think if you internalize it, it's easier. Of course, you see, your content also enriches. you are that much more aware as an individual if you are asking at a very personal level. But I really don't see it as an endeavor. I see it something more as my own commitment that, how much am I evolving myself along with the environment. Yeah, that's how I take it. I really don't take it as an effort. I do my bits and pieces, do check during the day. There is somebody in my team whose job is to go through each website first thing in the morning to update all of us in case there's something new which is going to change our lives. But that's the physical aspect of it. But I think mentally you just have to internalize this, that if you're a professional, and especially the environment that we are in, it is standard.
Thank you. This is a strong emerging theme. I mean, most of the conversations that I'm having with leaders like you, especially during the COVID era, there has been a huge recognition that continuous learning has to be the norm. And once every few years, you have to reinvent yourself. So I guess what you're saying is on those lines. Thank you. So Annindya, now let's get to know you better. When you're not working, when you're not trying to stay updated about the work, how do you spend your leisure time? How do you rejuvenate yourself?
In a very true Bengali way, I'm into reading and music, singing. So I think that's where I go back to my core. I do involve myself quite a bit in that. Try to sing as if no one's hearing, as if no one's around. It kind of eases me out quite a bit. And I can't sleep without reading. So that's like a very old daily habit. Could be anything, but that's something which I make a point on a daily basis. That's at least between the two things, at least a couple of hours a day. So that's something which is non-negotiable. Everybody around me kind of knows that.
It's so nice to hear that you sing as well. Any particular preferences or any particular style that you're fond of?
So, typically a little older than what my generation would have, but I'm extremely impressed by Hemant Kumar, both in Hindi as well as Bengali. If I can take half a minute there, he's a gentleman who's not very highly trained compared to the others that you know of in that era. Very trained at a very minimal level, but he kind of reinvented Tagore for an entire generation of Bengalis. So, and that, I think his baritone has really impressed me. I keep humming every now and then. That's something very close to me, very, very close to me. And we being Bengalis who are, so to say, non-resident, as we call Pravasi in Bangla. So it's nice to kind of, connect in a different way altogether.
Right. In fact, I was speaking with someone else earlier today, and we've kind of agreed that for all our clients and partners ecosystem, we will kind of create a group that is fond of certain types of arts. We already have a photographers group, but then music is also something very common. So maybe we could do this and have a jam session one of these days. Maybe compliance.
Fantastic.
10-10-22. We could dedicate an hour to just clients and partners jamming for us.
Sure. In fact, we have a group in HDFC, within HDFC, which is called BRICS. And the logo has a brick. That's why the name is BRICS. And we do every now and then something here or there.
So nice. Annindya, it was such a pleasure knowing you. But before we let you go, would you please share a message for the young professionals?
For the young professionals, you suddenly make me feel old. But that aside.
Okay, let's drop the word young. Please leave a message for our professional community.
So, I think it is about the commitment. It is about your perseverance. Content, you see, some which way all of us get our content. But the key differentiator is going to be your perseverance and your commitment. And that will help you in each aspect of your life. It could be professional, it could be personal. If you have that commitment, I think that underlying theme kind of sails you through, professionally, personally, both. That has been my way. Sweat it out, roll up your sleeves, get into action. And I think it works. It has worked for me, thankfully. I think that's the key word for me, commitment at its core.
Thank you, Annindya. Thank you for spending your time. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Really appreciate you joining us on this episode of Enchiridion. We'll have more to speak with you, maybe on a future date. Have a great day, Annindya.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me over. Nice speaking to you. Thank you.